You've probably been there, right? You've got the vision board up, you're saying the affirmations, maybe scrolling through endless success stories online, just wondering, how are they doing it? You try to think positive, but you still feel kind of stuck, maybe watching others just zip past while you feel like you're just idling. What if the whole idea of mindset that we've been sold, what if it's not quite the full picture anymore? What if the real hurdle isn't, your motivation, but maybe that your brain's running on, like an older operating system, one built for a world that, well, it doesn't really exist anymore? Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're digging into a pretty provocative idea. The notion that for 2025, just focusing on mindset might actually be holding you back. We're going to explore a different angle, one focused on specific consistent actions, things you can do to literally, and I mean literally, rewire your brain for success today.
Yeah, and we're pulling this from material based on Weldon Long's work, The Power of Consistency. And this isn't just, abstract theory. This guy, Long, has this incredible backstory, used these exact principles to build a multi-million-dollar business from basically nothing. So it's tested.
Right. So our mission here is pretty clear. Pull out the key insights from this material on how you can systematically, deliberately build those neural pathways for success. Kind of like overriding that old survival programming we all have. Think of it as getting your 2025 brain software update ready. Let's jump in.
Okay, so the source material really kicks off with a bang. It basically says, in 2025, mindset is a lie. Whoa. That's designed to get your attention, isn't it?
It is. It's a strong statement. But the argument behind it makes a lot of sense when you unpack it. The core idea presented is that our brains fundamentally are wired for survival, not success.
Not success, okay.
Yeah, think about it. Evolution prioritized spotting threats, remembering failures vividly so we don't repeat dangerous stuff, and crucially, avoiding risk. It's our default setting. That makes sense for, avoiding predators thousands of years ago. But why is that wiring such a big problem now? In 2025?
Well, look around. The speed of change. AI, the creator economy, new platforms popping up. It's relentless. Opportunity moves fast.
Yeah.
Your survival brain, it sees all this change as threat. It flags potential risks everywhere. It dredges up past failures. So what happens?
Paralysis. You get stuck thinking instead of doing.
Exactly. Analysis paralysis,
Yeah.
hesitation, waiting for the perfect moment or guaranteed safety that just doesn't exist anymore. Meanwhile, others are taking action, learning, adapting. That old wiring is a fatal flaw when speed and action are rewarded.
Right. So just trying to plaster positive thinking over that deep biological wiring, it's maybe not enough.
That seems to be the argument. The source does talk about needing a prosperity mindset, but it presents it very differently. Not as wishful thinking, but as a tactical override, an intentional reprogramming.
Okay, a tactical override. I like that. So how do we start that process? How do we install this new programming?
The source introduces a technique it calls prosperity rehearsal. It's about actively building a future memory, creating the feeling and the mental blueprint of success before it happens.
Building a future memory. Sounds interesting. How does that work? What are the steps laid out in the source's identity action plan for this?
First step, get specific, really specific about the outcome you want. Not just, I want to grow my business. More like, I will close one new client at the $20,000 level by the end of this month. Something tangible, measurable.
Okay, concrete goal. Got it.
Second, you schedule it, make it non-negotiable. The recommendation is just 5 minutes every single morning, and crucially, before you check your phone, before the day's noise gets in.
Pretend that time. Makes sense.
Third, the rehearsal itself. You run a mental movie, but detailed, super vivid. See yourself doing the actions needed, making that awkward call, writing that proposal, finishing that project piece, even see yourself navigating potential roadblocks. And then you visualize the successful outcome. Hear the client saying yes, see the contract signed, imagine the feeling of hitting publish on your project.
So it's the whole process, not just the end result.
Precisely. And here's the absolute key the source emphasizes. You have to attach strong, positive emotion to this mental movie. Feel the joy, the relief, the pride, the satisfaction. Because the point they make, and neuroscience seems to back this up, is your brain doesn't really distinguish strongly between a vividly imagined, emotionally charged experience and a real one.
Wow. So you're actually creating the neural pathways for that success just by rehearsing it.
That's the idea. You're essentially pre-paving the road, making the future success feel familiar, expected, even inevitable to your subconscious. Like an athlete visualizing the game-winning shot hundreds of times.
So when the moment comes, it's less scary, more automatic?
Exactly. It feels like you've been there before. For entrepreneurs, creators, anyone trying to achieve something challenging in 2025, this rehearsal builds those pathways for the necessary actions and the desired outcomes. And the final piece of this rehearsal, you verbalize the identity. After the 5 minutes, you say it out loud. I am the kind of person who confidently makes sales calls, or I'm the kind of person who finishes projects. Reinforces who you're becoming.
Creating future memories, attaching emotion, verbalizing identity. Okay, that's powerful. But then the source hits us again. It says, stop goal setting. Wait, stop goal setting. Isn't that like rule number 1?
Yeah, it sounds totally counterintuitive.
Right.
But the perspective here is that goals are just destinations. And most people, well, they know where they want to go maybe, but they have no daily map to get there. They fail because they lack the operational plan. The source introduces the prosperity plan as that crucial daily map.
Okay, the map, not just the destination. And why is this daily map so critical now, specifically for 2025?
Well, think about your attention. It's the main currency, isn't it? And it's under constant attack. Notifications, emails, DMs, shiny objects everywhere. A vague goal like make more money just gets drowned out by the daily noise. The prosperity plan, as described, is your shield. It's your pre-made decision framework that tells you exactly what matters today, regardless of the chaos.
So it cuts through the clutter before it even starts. I get it. Okay, so the source breaks this plan down into, 3 simple parts on one page?
That's right. Simple but powerful. Part 1, your vision. The why. Just one sentence. Your North Star. Could be financial freedom through my online business by 2027, or build a creative agency known for integrity. The big picture.
Got it. The ultimate why.
Part 2, your values. The rules. 3 to 5 non-negotiable principles, like health comes first, or always deliver massive value, or family time is protected. And these aren't just nice ideas, they're filters. If something comes up, an opportunity, a request, and it violates one of your core values, the answer is automatically no. Simplifies things dramatically, keeps you aligned.
Okay, value-based guardrails. Nice. And the third part?
Part 3, your critical actions. The how. Again, just 3 to 5 daily non-negotiable habits. But key distinction here, these aren't just random tasks. They are the identity-building, highest leverage actions that directly drive your vision. Examples might be 60 minutes of focused prospecting, write 500 words, reach out to 3 potential partners. Actions that define the person who achieves the vision.
Right, not busy work, but the core levers. The source mentioned Alex Hormozy focusing only on things that increase enterprise value. That feels like this kind of ruthless focus on critical actions.
Exactly. The plan pre-decides what's truly important, so you don't waste energy figuring it out every single day when distractions are flying at you.
Okay, future memory rehearsal is happening, the daily plan is set. Now comes the action part. The source talks about a consistent action formula, and it seems almost deceptively simple.
It really does. The formula is basically this. Small, smart actions done consistently over time lead to massive results. The magic isn't some heroic effort, it's the consistency. It's building an unbreakable chain.
An unbreakable chain. Why is that concept so vital right now in 2025?
Well, think about skills. AI is changing things. Personal branding is huge. New sales channels emerge. You need to constantly learn and adapt. You can't just cram for that kind of mastery. You can't binge learn complex skills effectively. It takes daily, consistent practice, showing up every day. The source is pretty blunt here. If you're not consistently practicing and improving, you're falling behind. Procrastination in this environment isn't just delaying things. It's kind of like slow motion career suicide.
Ouch, okay, point taken. So how do we build this unbreakable chain? What's the method from the source's identity action plan?
First, you identify your one keystone habit, the single most important action that triggers other positive results. For a writer, maybe it's writing. For a salesperson, prospecting. Find that domino. Second, and this is brilliant, you shrink it down. Make it ridiculously small. So small it feels silly not to do it.
Like really small.
Laughably small. If the habit is writing, commit to write 1 sentence. Jim. Put on gym shoes. The goal is to kill the friction, to eliminate the I don't feel like it excuse before it starts.
Lower the activation energy.
Exactly that. Just get started. Third step. Track the vein. Use a physical calendar, the source suggests. Every day you do that tiny action, draw a big X. Your only job becomes don't break the chain.
Don't break the chain, that's the focus.
That's the entire focus initially. Fourth, let momentum do the work.
Yeah.
After you've strung together a week, 2 weeks of X's, doing that tiny action feels automatic. Then, naturally, it starts to grow. 1 sentence becomes 2, maybe a paragraph. Putting on gym shoes might lead to a walk, then maybe a run. It expands because you've built the habit of showing up, and crucially, you've started to build the identity of someone who does that thing consistently. You're not relying on willpower anymore.
That makes so much sense. It reminds me of James Clear in Atomic Habits. Building tiny habits, making it easy, tracking the streak. It's about the system, not just raw effort.
Exactly. It's about engineering consistency.
Okay, so we're building the chain, showing up consistently. How does that tiny daily action turn into, that unstoppable success we sometimes see? The source talks about activating the momentum engine. What's that?
This is where it gets really interesting. The source explains that consistency doesn't pay off linearly. It's exponential. Think of adding sand to one side of a balance scale. You add 1 grain, nothing, another, nothing. You add maybe 100 grains day after day of consistent effort, and visually, still looks like nothing's happening. The scale hasn't moved.
That's the frustrating part, right? The plateau.
It is. But then one day you add just one more grain 101, and boom, the scale tips dramatically. That sudden shift, that's the momentum engine kicking in.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that last grain. It was the cumulative weight of all the previous grains.
That's a great analogy, and so relevant for 2025. We see stuff online and expect instant results, then get discouraged and quit right before the scale might have tipped.
Exactly. Burnout is huge. People mistake that lack of immediate visible results for a lack of progress. Understanding the momentum engine helps you trust the process. Keep adding those grains, knowing the weight is building, even if you can't see it yet.
So how do we keep ourselves going during that adding grains phase? How do we fuel that engine? The source has a specific tactic, right? Celebrate the input, not just the output.
Yes. This taps into our brain's reward system. We need dopamine. The mistake we make, according to the source, is tying that dopamine reward only to external outcomes we don't fully control, like making the big sale or getting the promotion. When those things don't happen right away, which they often don't, our motivation just tanks.
So we need to reward something else.
We need to reward the effort, the controllable action. So you redefine your win for the day. The win isn't, I got a client. The win is, I completed my 60 minutes of prospecting. The win isn't, my post went viral. It's, I published my content piece today. You celebrate completing the input.
Okay, celebrate the input. How do you make that feel like a real win, though? How do you get that dopamine hit?
Create a small gun ritual, something physical. After you complete your tiny action, after you draw your X on the calendar, do something. Maybe it's closing your laptop with a clap. Maybe checking off a box on a list and saying done, out loud with some energy, a little fist pump. It sounds small, but that immediate physical acknowledgement gives your brain a little reward. It reinforces the act of showing up, the consistency itself.
Instant feedback for the effort. I like that.
And then the source suggests amplifying it with accountability. Share your chain. Tell a mentor, a friend, a mastermind group, hey, hit day 30 on my writing chain. That's social proof. Just saying it out loud raises the stakes. Makes it harder to quit, especially when you're close to that tipping point.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the YouTuber who posts 100 videos that barely get views, but they're learning, refining. Then video 101 takes off. It wasn't just video 101, it was the momentum from the previous 100. The engine finally fired up.
That's the concept, exactly. Compounded effort.
Okay, let's wrap this up. The big takeaway here feels like you're not broken. You're not lazy. You might just be running brain software designed for a different era.
Right. And trying to power through 2025 on fleeting motivation or waiting for inspiration, it's just not sustainable. It's inefficient.
The source really argues that success today, and especially heading into 2025, isn't necessarily about raw talent or even just positive thinking. It's about consistency. It's about deliberately, systematically rewiring how you operate.
Building the frameworks for consistent action. That seems to be the edge.
And it's not just about ticking boxes. It's about using these techniques, the rehearsal, the plan, the chain, rewarding the input to actually build the identity of someone who achieves things consistently.
Building the identity one action at a time.
So for you listening, where do you start? Don't try to do it all at once. Pick one thing. Just one. Maybe it's identifying that keystone habit and shrinking it down. What's the ridiculously small first step? Maybe it's just drafting part 1 of your prosperity plan, that one sentence vision. Or maybe it's simply defining your win for tomorrow as completing one specific action and deciding on your done ritual. Make it tiny. Yep. Start today. Start your chain.
Because your future self, it's waiting for you to lay down that first piece of track.
So here's something to think about. What is the one single, ridiculously small action you can commit to taking today or maybe tomorrow morning to start building that chain toward the future you want? Just one small thing. Give that some thought. And thanks for joining us for this deep dive.